This is the Razer Turret keyboard and mouse combo for the Xbox One. Now, it's been a few months since Microsoft has opened up keyboard and mouse support on the Xbox One, but this is the first keyboard that has been released branded and designed specifically to be used on the Xbox. Now, this makes it a little bit different from some of the other keyboards and mice that we've talked about before in terms of using them on a console. A lot of times when we talk about console keyboards, they're not actually keyboards. They are devices that are mimicking controller inputs and just doing the best job they can of making it feel like an authentic keyboard and mouse experience. That's not the case here. This is a real keyboard and mouse. You could hook it up to your PC if you wanted to as well, so it's going to give you that true experience. What's special about this combo, though, is how several aspects of this setup have been tailored to specifically being used in a couch kind of setup with a console instead of the more traditional keyboard and mouse on a desktop. So, fun fact, while this is branded for Xbox and obviously is all aimed directly towards that, it's still basically just a normal keyboard that's entirely wireless. So as we've said, you could use that with a PC, but a more interesting and possibly even kind of taboo option is it will also work on a PS4. Unlike Xbox, PlayStation is currently not doing any kind of major keyboard and mouse support across their platform. However, one specific game does allow and have native keyboard support, and that is Fortnite. So once you've actually logged into the game, you've gotten past your PlayStation launch screen and all that kind of stuff, if you've got a keyboard and mouse plugged in, you can start using it and have the actual full kind of, well, keyboard and mouse interface and be able to play in online matches with other people that are using keyboard. Now, obviously, this won't allow you to make use of all the features available on this keyboard, like some of the customization stuff, but if you just want a really comfy couch setup and you really like Fortnite on PS4, this is actually an option. So what exactly do you get in this combo? Well, the keyboard is a 10 keyless setup that has Razer green switches. That's their very traditional, tactile, slightly clicky sounding ones that personally I like to use a lot. The mouse has a 16,000 DPI sensor, and both of these are wireless. You can use them wired if you prefer. You do get a number of cables with this, one to connect the keyboard directly to your Xbox One or PC. It also can connect into an AC adapter for wall power. There is a cable that goes for the mouse to your Xbox One or PC, and then a very short charging cable that can connect your mouse to the keyboard directly when you want to charge them both at the same time with wall power. The battery life when you're using these wirelessly is pretty good. If you don't have any of the lighting effects on, so you just get the maximum battery life possible, the keyboard is going to be the one that holds you back a little bit and goes for a total of 43 hours, which is really good, but that's also without any of the lighting effects, so where's the fun? If you turn all that stuff on, the mouse takes a little bit of a hit, but the keyboard loses a lot of battery life and takes it all the way down to 11 hours, which is still long enough for, one solid sit-through of playing games, but you're definitely going to need to charge it a little more often. Thankfully, though, with the wireless setup, you could always just plug it into wall power and not have a cable running all the way to your system. So what exactly makes this keyboard and mouse designed for Xbox One? Well, there's three main features that really stand out to me. First off is just the design of the keyboard itself. You might be noticing that while it is a 10 keyless one, it's got a pretty big footprint. And the reason why is because it has this very large noticeable built-in wrist rest. That way, when you're playing with it on your lap, it's going to sit nice and stable. It's not going to feel like it's too small or going to slide off. And it gives a place for your wrist to rest. That way, it doesn't start getting strained when you're playing for long hours on end. The second thing is the built-in mousepad. So the keyboard actually has a mousepad you can slide out right here. It's just large enough to be able to give you a good enough room to move the mouse around. I do wish you had just a little more surface area to work with, but considering the overall size, I think it's a good compromise. But what's really interesting about it is that the mouse and mousepad are actually slightly magnetized. So that's going to make sure that while you're playing, the mouse is going to have this nice kind of sticky feeling to the pads. It's going to slide around nice and easy. It's not going to fall off, but it's just enough little force that if you need to lift the mouse, it's not really noticeable or a big deal. 3, and I know this is going to sound really minor to some people, but I think it's actually really important in the case of using this with the Xbox One. Both the keyboard and mouse connect wirelessly to the same little dongle. So on the Xbox One, where you only have 3 USB ports to make use of, this is going to make sure that the other ones are freed up for things like a USB headset or external USB SSD. Plus, it's also small enough that you can put it in one of the back USB ports and still be able to have the Xbox closer to a wall without it taking up a bunch of space. It's also worth noting that, like a lot of Razer's other wireless mice, the Turret does come with a little space in the mouse that you can store the dongle whenever you're not using it. That way it has a nice little safe place to stay if you want to switch it between different Xboxes or even move it between an Xbox and PC setup. As of right now, the list of games that support keyboard and mouse on the Xbox One is still pretty small, but thankfully, out of that list, a lot of them are very popular multiplayer games with a lot of replayability, stuff like Fortnite, Warframe, even Vermintide 2. Now, if you're more of a single-player kind of person, there's Metro Exodus right now, which is what I'm playing. Now, something that people might worry about with a setup like this is, yeah, cool, you can use a keyboard and mouse, but if it's wireless, is it gonna have any kind of noticeable heavy input lag? And honestly, not really. One of the cool things about this is that it makes use of Razer's adaptive frequency technology. It's something they use in a lot of their wireless mice, and it's constantly changing the frequency it's on to make sure that it's giving you the cleanest, best signal possible, which is really cool. I mean, using it just feels seamless. And if you're really worried about it, again, you can use this in a wired setup if you prefer. Something else that's really cool with this setup that not a lot of games can use just yet, but Microsoft does have plans to have it in more games, especially their own exclusives like Gears of War 5, is this thing called Xbox Dynamic Lighting. What it does is it takes the lighting effects on the keyboard and mouse and matches them up to things that are happening in-game, which is a really cool concept. Speaking of the lighting, something that I really appreciate they did as sort of an extra step on this is that they brought a version of Razer Synapse to the Xbox One for the turret specifically. So if you want to do anything like customizing lighting effects on your keyboard, or you want to adjust the sensitivity and polling rate of your mouse, you don't have to hook this up to a PC to make that work. Instead, you just download the app on your Xbox One while you're connected, and you can open up all the settings you want to change, including lighting effects on the mouse and keyboard, whether or not you're making use of dynamic lighting for those games that have it, the mouse sensitivity, and even power saving options if you want to start shutting off lights if you're not using it very often. Something I want to really emphasize too while I'm actually actively using this is how kind of comfortable and natural this all feels. Part of the problem of bringing keyboard and mouse to systems before is that keyboard and mouse is traditionally a very sort of desktop-oriented thing and not something you can necessarily do from the comfort of your couch. But the way this one's sized, at least for me, is just right to fit comfortably in any of my chairs or laying out on a couch, sits nice on my lap, and I'm just able to reach all the keys and just feels right. Using the Razer Turret a lot has made something very apparent to me. Keyboard and mouse support needed to come to consoles a lot sooner. Just bear with me here. For a long time, we've always accepted the idea that for certain genres of games, there are specialized controllers you can pick up. Oh, you really like fighting games? Well, you should buy a fight pad, or maybe even a full-blown arcade-style fight stick. Oh, you love racing games? Well, pick up a racing wheel. But when it comes to the FPS genre, or other genres like RTS that have just been mostly blocked off from consoles, we never really fought to bring keyboards over. Now, to be fair, keyboards do take a little bit more work to incorporate because there's a lot more keys to make use of, and then mice work very different from control sticks or steering wheels. But there's so many amazing games that have just kind of been left to PC only. Part of where this comes from too, I think, is this long-standing concept of console versus PC gaming. You know, PC gaming, you have the powerful gaming rig on your desktop setup with keyboard and mouse, while console, you're just laying back lazily with a controller. And yeah, I get it, that made sense for a time, but it doesn't really need to be that way anymore. And I think that's something that Xbox has been working towards, this concept of just making games available to any platform that you like and use the kind of controller or setup that you're comfortable with. And so being able to play these style of games with a keyboard and mouse on the comfort of my own couch that's designed to work just that way is this really liberating experience, and just makes me wish there was more options like that. Again, sadly, right now that list of games that support a keyboard and mouse on Xbox One is pretty small, but after using the Turret, I want to see that list grow and grow a lot faster. And not just in terms of, oh, I want more FPS games that'll let me use keyboard and mouse because I find that more comfortable, but also for more tactical experience style games, and even starting to accept more ports of games that traditionally wouldn't really work on a console. There are so many great games that haven't made their way to a console setup because the idea of playing them with a regular controller seems utterly insane. But having the ability to use a keyboard and mouse no longer has that limitation. I'm not going to make any crazy sweeping statements like, oh, the Razer Turret is the amazing, best, ultimate keyboard mouse combo out there that you have to get, no other choice. No, that's a crazy thing to say. Look, it's a really expensive keyboard and mouse setup, and I get it. There are cheaper options out there that will work on your Xbox One if you make them work. What the Razer Turret does, though, is it's specialized for this very specific purpose of bringing you that experience of keyboard and mouse and allowing you to use it comfortably on your couch at home playing an Xbox One, and it does that job beautifully.